Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So this is deck report week number 8, season 3. So for those who have been following this channel for a while now, you already know that I have a regionals this next weekend, and I have been testing very heavily for that. I really just want to have the best choice for that event. And as opposed to other major events that I've played in the past, uh, I have been as dedicated to test for this one because I really do want my nationals invite. But not only that, I feel like this format is a little bit more challenging for me personally than other formats in the past. Uh, I just feel like that I am not 100% sure on what choice I'm going to make for my event, and I do have a lot more options that did before. And like, if this was last format, this would have been easy for me. I probably would just pick Ritual Beast and just call it a day. But Rage of the Abyss did change a lot of things. It did put into perspective a lot of options, and it made me want to test under the sun everything that I could. Because if despite the small amount of card pool that entered the format changed a lot from those small cards that we got from Rage of the Abyss. So I already profiled Fire Kings. I also profiled Valence. I did it not as a deck report, but as like a separate showcase. So feel free to check out those videos if you haven't. This is the third choice that I do have for like as my regional for my regional event, and it's a deck that a lot of people that have followed my channel and seen my content has seen me play in the past, like even before Pat and Emre and Santoli took this deck like on the map. I actually have played Centur-ion for quite a while, so everything they showcased when they topped their perspective events, I was already keen on. I already tested those strategies. I already tested those avenues, but it's still good to give a second look and just try the deck yourself to see if they were onto something that you probably have missed, or like just see if the theory holds true for the event. Because like despite Pac's amazing showcase in YCS Niagara, he was the only Centurion that topped that event. To as far as my knowledge goes, I don't think there were too many Centurions that made day 2 at YCS Niagara. And this is nothing to take away from Pac. Like, the guy did tremendous amount of testing. He showed the deck that he was going to play for more than a month before that event, and he has a full classroom of people that just is a good testing circle. If you do want to see those testing circle, I do recommend you checking them out on his channel. I'm not there personally, but it's not because I'm not against it, or it's not that I just feel like my priorities are not aligned to dedicate myself to have time for those classroom events. That being said, I'm not rambling for a little bit. I'm just gonna go and talk about the list, and we'll talk about some stuff that I did a little bit different, and my overall thoughts on this deck, like in my testing. So for Centurion part, 3 Primera, 3 Trudea, Gargoyle, Atri, those are the monsters. That should be standard in most lists. If you're playing Master Duel, some people play the Emeth, but you know, this isn't Master Duel. Terraforming, Stand Up, Emblema, Bonds, and 2 Phalanx. This is the pack technology, playing a second Phalanx. I do like it. I think he was very spot on with that approach. Bystials. I think this is the best way to play like Centurions. Like, this isn't even a pack idea. This is like something that a lot of players have been doing for a while now with Centurion. And I did talk about this like months in the past, back when Auxila got announced. So 3 Rebellion, 2 Druid Swarm, 1 Saronir, 1 Boldrake, 1 Magnamort, 1 Regain, and 1 Branded Beast. I'll talk about the Beast and the Surrounding in a bit. Non-engine, or the other hand traps, I guess. 2 Nibiru, 1 Ogre, 3 Veiler, 3 Imperms, so basically 6 Veilers, you already know. The 3 Asp Blossom, and the 2 Crows. So that's it for the main deck. There are a few differences. I'll showcase you. Yeah, I'll talk about the main differences in the main deck first before I'll talk about the extra in this side. So you probably already noticed I'm not playing Wake Up Centur-ion in this list. I really don't like that card. And I do understand how some combos that you do become very explosive and you just get to your multiple 12 synchro line a lot easier if you just resolve that card. However, that card is a very hard brick. My biggest issue with Wake Up Centur-ion is your good hands are better with that card. Your bad hands are worse with that card. And you can't afford that trade if you like don't open sufficiently. Centur-ion is known for having a lot of starters, so that is a good thing on their regard. However, like if you don't go first and you don't hand trap enough your opponent, that card is bad. If your opponent stops one of your initial plays, that card is also bad. Like there's just so much that has to go right for Wake Up Centur-ion to resolve. And I know the card can be a little bit more flexible. I know the card that's one of the reasons you play multiple phalanx. I understand that that card makes some lines with the Primus just a lot easier. But in testing, I just been a very skeptical person, like in general, when it comes to building strategies. So I always think about the worst case scenarios and not the best case scenarios, and that's a card that doesn't help me do that. That's why I'm not playing the card. You are free to play Wake Up. That is cognitively just like a player decision. This is not like a right or wrong thing. It's just what happened to me throughout testing. And I tested with that card a lot. I tested with that card since it came out in Lexia Destruction. So I do know what I'm talking about. So there is this kind of standard you already saw. This is pretty much the rest. But yeah, Centur-ion. Okay, let's go with the Bystial choices. So let's talk about Branded Beast and let's talk about Saronir, because Saronir does come in tandem with it. So behind Branded Beast. So we're in a format where there's a lot of cards that are just sticking to the board that are very imperative for them to get removed. So we're talking about Sinful Spoils Deception, Snake Eye Temple, Spell and Trap Monsters from Flamberge, Fiendsmith Sequence equipped to Disarray, Nightmare Pain, Nightmare Throne, Opening of the Spirit Gates, against the Centur-ion Mirror Match, like the Spell and Trap monsters. Like, we're entering a format where spot removal is just very important. So, if you don't play those in your main deck, you need to make sure that either your extra deck tools or your monsters themselves, part of your engine, can just get the job done. And not many people are doing that in a lot of their decks. I felt like with Branded Beast, you just have like a card that just threatens removal every single turn. And if Branded Beast alongside Regained is like both are resolving each and every turn, you should not lose the grind game at all, because there's so much into rotation that you're getting out of this. Like, for example, let's say you have Magnamon in the graveyard and you regain to resummon it, and then your Beast to tribute, and then let's say you banish a card, and then you just gain a draw out of it, and then each and every turn you just keep getting more and more cards. Like that's just like a lot of card advantage that you're getting out of these cards. Now let's talk about Sarnier. The main reason Sarnier is here is because you can with Sarnier you can get access to both of these cards in rotation if you have Lubelli, if you open Lubellion. Let's say for example we've opened Stand Up alongside Lubellion. Let's say so this is a 2-card combo, sort of. So you can pitch Lubellion for Sarnier. You stand up, send Sarnier, and with Sarnier, you send the Regain to the graveyard. When you resummon Lubellion in part of your line with your Centurions, Lubellion is going to spawn the Branded Beast, and then during the end phase, this Branded Beast is going to place the Branded Regain. So now you have both spell and traps in rotation, and if you have something like, for example, like Auxila on board alongside all of this, like this is really hard for your opponent to get rid of, and these cards are just going to as I mentioned earlier, just spawn more and more advantage each turn. So that is kind of strong in that regard. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the Bystial cards. This is strictly optional. You don't have to play these 2 cards. A lot of lists don't play these, but I just felt like I wanted to test them just because the shape of the environment of the meta game that we're at favors these cards. I did brick on Branded Beast like 3 times on testing, so take that with a grain of salt whenever you're deck building it like this. But overall, I do like the card. I have won actually a couple games because of this card resolving. Multiple and against Snake Eye Asamina. So yeah. So for the non-engine, everything here is probably standard outside of DD Crow, like Ash, Imperm, Veiler, like all these are known. I'm only playing 1 Ogre because it is hard once per turn. I did cite it on other copies, and same thing with Nibiru. I just didn't want to max out on the card because I just didn't want to open multiple Nibirus. So let's talk about DD Crow. So there's multiple reasons why this card is in here. Number 1, it is fodder for your Bystials. Something that you have to be cognizant of this deck when you are building alongside the Bystials is you want a lot of light and dark hand traps to make sure that your Bystials resolve in the off chance you play against a matchup that doesn't play light and dark cards. In the case you do play against those, then those Bystials become a lot easier to just use. But Bystials are not real hand traps because not every deck in the format plays light and darks. So that's where DD Crow comes in. The other really cool thing about DD Crow is that it gets rid of a lot of cards that Bystials cannot get rid of. It can get rid of Hallowed Asomina. It can get rid of like for example, it can get rid of Promethean Fire Princess. It can get rid of Sacred Fire King Garunix. It can get rid of just like other cards like that. So yeah, I'd say on this regard, you should actually consider DD Crow. Like it is. Another cool thing about DD Crow is that you can trigger this even if your opponent doesn't control monsters. So if your opponent just tries to play around your Bystials, like for example, you're facing a Voiceless Voice and the guy does the Tria Sierra play, like DD Crow deals with that. Dino Mondo, DD Crow also deals with that. Like, yeah, I do think this format favors draw DD Crow. So if you can play it, you should play it. Yeah, that's it for a main deck. I think everything else is pretty much standard Centur-ion stuff. that you've seen so far. So there are some unorthodox cards in the extra deck, and I will separate them. Everything else is stuff that you already used to seeing. So I'll start with the notable ones. You already know about Artemis, you know about SP, you already know about the two Primaras, you know about Chaos Angel. This is pretty much a staple in this deck now. Dispater, the two Legatias, the Auxilla, the Blazer, and the Crimson Dragon. Those are all known cards in the Centur-ion deck, especially if you play Bystials. Like that's all new. I mean that's nothing new. So let's start with unorthodox choices that I made for the extra. You notice how there's no IP Masquerena in this list. That's because my replacement was Heretic Seal. So Heretic Seal, I think is warranted because we do play enough dragon monsters with the Bystials and some of the Centurions being dragon type monsters. Same way you can rotate back some of your monsters with Phalanx in the graveyard. You can just link away Auxilla for this and use Phalanx to reborn the Auxilla, and you end up with both. Also, the thing about Heretic Seal is it's a lot harder to deal with than IP, and it's a lot easier to set up than IP. Like, if IP plus Druid's Worm results is very, very explosive, you're getting rid of a lot of cards. However, Heretic Seal, to just spawn a Bystial from your deck and then use it for Wake Up Centur-ion, or you can spawn a Centur-ion monster if you don't have both Gargoyle and Atri in rotation. That also helps doing that. This also helps with that. So, yeah, it's just an overall very flexible card. And this is not the easiest thing to get rid of or just deal with. This is also a light and dark for Bystials, so that's also something else to keep in mind. And you can recycle it with Regained, so you can resummon it and every other turn. So, another thing to keep in mind when it comes to this card. So, the other one is Silhouette Rabbit. Some lists are playing this, but for those who are not, the main reason this is here is because of Apophis. So I do side deck this card. This is an endboard piece on your Centur-ion deck. For those who don't know what the Apophis does, if you summon it and you have other continuous trap cards, you can negate cards on the board up to that number of continuous trap card. So it's very similar to the Silhouette card with the rabbit, but it negates and summons on activation. So it's way better than the Silhouette one, because the Silhouette one that negates, it negates on a separate chain and it does target. This one does not target and it can be done in the entire activation. And this is level 6, so that's something to keep in mind when it comes to this other card that we're going to showcase later. So that's something to keep in mind if you have Apophis. But yeah, really cool card. I really do like it. It just turns off a lot of cards that your opponent could try to do. This is essentially like a pseudo Omni-Negate, very similar to how Disarray works. So yeah, this is way better than the Azaroon in this deck specifically. So the other two cards in the extra deck that I'm going to showcase are Silvera, Tamer of the White Forest, and Supreme and Sorcerer Supreme. So why are these cards here? What card are we doing to make these possible? So one card I've been testing my side deck, and in theory it sounds very strong, but in my testing throughout 9 games I never drew the card, so I really can't say for sure whether it's sufficient. I can tell you in theory that I did like the card, and the card that I'm talking about is Hopyard Squadron. So for those who don't know, this card what it does is, in your hand, you can target one monster on the field. You can special summon this monster, and that monster plus the monster that you targeted immediately becomes a synchro summon. So essentially, this is basically another way to synchro summon besides stand up Centur-ion. Post side deck, you're probably going to be facing a lot of Cosmic Cyclones. They just get rid of this card immediately. So you want another way to synchro summon if they do get rid of this. And the Hoppier Squadron does that very well. It is level 2, which makes it a little bit odd to make certain synchros with it. However, that's where the Silvera comes in. Silvera is a very, very, very strong monster interruption that you can summon with 4 and 2. So, 4 and 2 equals 6, which makes this. If you do the Apophis line, 2 plus 6 equals 8. So this makes the Primera Primus. And Primera Primus is a monster interruption. Like when it gets summoned, like you add an emblema and then pop the cards, one on each side. So this is another interruption that you can make. If you play the Bystials, it's the same thing. Bystial plus Hoppier equals the Primus. If you use Druid's Worm, it becomes an extra send alongside the pop. If you use level 8 monsters, like for example, you use Lubellion or Atrodea that becomes level 8, or you use Gargoyle, that's where the Sword Soul comes in. And the Sword Soul is really good in this deck because you can pair it up alongside your Bystials, you can pair it up alongside the Centur-ion Phalanx, you can pair it up like just with a lot of other cards. You can pair it along DD Crow if you do play DD Crow. So that's another avenue. It's just a really strong card. Like another really cool thing is, let's say you already have the Sword Soul on the board because you made it with a 4 and a 6, or you have Chaos Angel. Let's say you have those two. The Hoppier Squadron can synchro away with these two to make that your 12s. So there is a lot of flexibility on what you can summon with the Hoppier. But the most common level in this deck is level 4. So I chose the Silvera on that regard. Post side, if you play Retaliating Sea is also level 4. So you can synchro away the Retaliating Sea with Hoppier to make the Silvera as well. And that's just more monster interruptions for your opponent. So yeah, that's pretty much like my analogy behind this card. I really, really do recommend you trying it out if you're playing Centur-ion. Again, I didn't resolve it at all in testing, but in theory, it just sounded very good, especially in this deck because with Centur-ion, you end up drawing 2 to 3 cards like in your rotation. So it's enough draws to just get you to this card. If you play this alongside more Charmies, you can do this on turn 0 with your opponent if you pair it up with the Bystial. So that's another thing you can experiment with. I've seen people try this with Tempai and just play the Rescue Ace Impulse. So that is another option. And I had people in my locals ask me, is there a searcher for this card? And funnily enough, there is a searcher for that card. Remember this card? This card was played in Ritual Beast for adding Rampengu. This can also add the Hoppier Squadron. And Shield Bearer is actually really cool in this deck because, for starters, it is level 4. So you can make your Primus and you can make your level 12 synchros with this. The other thing that is really cool about this card is you can banish a light monster to just draw one card. So you can banish an FF Baylor that you're not using. You can banish a lot of your cards, and you just get a draw out of it. And another really cool thing about that card is that card pairs well with Branded Regained, because let's say you have Branded Regained, you already have a Lightning Dark in your graveyard, and you do Chill Bear. You can banish your Lightning Dark, draw one card, then Branded Regain, put it back, draw another card. This also works with Branded Regain in the sense that you can activate your Branded Regain, use Shield Bear, banish itself to add your Hopbeard, and then regain, put back the Shield Bear, and draw one card. So that also works in that regard as well. So yeah, this is an engine to consider in the future if you really want to like try things outside the box for Centur-ion, but don't want to like rely on just like field spell or other avenues, or you just want to keep synchro summoning. I do think in testing, even though I cannot tell you accurate results, in theory this sounds really really okay. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope you found this informative to like understanding. I guess before the video ends, I should talk about my position with this deck in this format. Right now, I'm not liking Centur-ion at the moment, and the problem is not the deck itself. I think the deck is perfectly fine. I think the big issue that I'm having with the deck right now is that I'm never a fan of hand trap wars. Like I don't like pairing hand traps with other people and just think about which one sticks the most. I've never been a fan of that playstyle. And Centur-ion is one of the best decks that can do it the best. But that's not to say that the deck is a bad choice at all. I think Centurion's is very valid this format. I think the top the pack had was very justified. This deck has been doing very well in the regional season as well. So, yeah, that's it from me. I hope you found this. I'm rambling, I'm repeating. Keep practicing and keep dueling.